ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network, on Broadway World, or on social media. I'm so excited that you're here. I love art. I love theater in New York. And as a student, an acting student, a lot of the times my acting teacher would talk about the work over at the Tank, because the Tank is a place where actors are born, where new works are born. And it is very important that we support all of these theaters out here in this world, especially these theater organizations. So when I found out about what the David Prize is, and I found out what it does, and then I found out that Meghan Finn is the artistic director at the Tank, and then in her spare time, she works on boards to help immigrant families. And as a teacher here in New Jersey and in Detroit, Michigan, who has many immigrant families that are affected by the politics in the world today, and how art can save people's lives and see us and represent us. And it's very important that the art of today is going to change the world of tomorrow. I was like, where is Meghan Finn and why is she not on this show? Meghan Finn, welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Firstly, you might be the richest person I know, because you
are I know, it's very funny to suddenly, we like beg, borrow, steal over here at the Tank, and I'm like, remember, it's just me, and this kind of makes up for all the years of struggling. So it's a nice place to be. But
I'm fascinated by, you have worked at the who's who as a director, an artistic director at some of the most iconic theater spaces in New York City and around the country. And why settle at the Tank? What about the Tank made you say, this is my home?
Well, at first the Tank has grown quite a bit since I started almost 8 years ago. When we first started, we were, a $450,000 a year organization. Now we're a $1.7 million organization. We had one little theater space, and we'd go renting spaces all around town. And I was really interested in the big shows for ours. They're not as big as some of the shows that are happening around town, but we're really trying to get plays out of drawers. And that's what I was most excited about the productions. And I thought, oh, well, this presenting stuff that we do the rest of the time is, that's cool, but it's not what I'm interested in. And the time that I've been here, my view of the whole thing has completely changed. I now see the presenting work that we do as being such a vital part of the cultural ecosystem of New York City. I don't need to tell you, there's so many amazing talents that get started here, and they're on Broadway or off Broadway before you can even blink. And so I really started to see, oh no, this is the work here. And of course we want to get plays out of doors, and I haven't stopped doing that, but it was really like, oh, this is what's gratifying to me is the presenting about 3,000 performing artists every year.
Wow. What's amazing for me about it is that when New York thinks of theater as what's going on in Times Square, but what is important is that new works and new artists and actors getting to work and people being able to afford a ticket to go support art and see original art is so vital to the artistic ecosystem that is in New York City.
Yeah, and I think we've come to a crossroads as a sector. I mean, I hope that your listeners and watchers think of all the excitement that's happening on and off Broadway as the best of what's happening here. But there really has been a moment for theater where it's been a lot of soul searching since the pandemic. They haven't seen the audiences returning in the ways that they were before. Some of the ways that people have been thinking about producing, they've had to rethink just out of necessity because the theater has had a hard time bouncing back. And I really think that audiences at a emerging or experimental artist level are what build a base for those bigger shows. You have to teach people how to pay for culture and how to have the experience. And it might start at $15, but that's how they learn to spend the bucks that way. As they learn to go to the theater and to have that be a part of their world in New York. And it's actually what makes New York, New York. I mean, I think, that's why we live in this city, because of our access to world-class culture. And that can be in a small theater, that can be seeing the next best thing, which is what happens at the Tank every day.
Every day. The tanknyc.org, they are a nonprofit. You can donate money and contribute if you have a couple bucks lying around. They'll be happy to take that off your hands. And the fall, and if you don't have that, the best way you can help contribute is buy tickets to come see the shows. The fall season is out.
Yes, we have an amazing show happening right now by Justin Hale called Bile Isle. It's a brand new play. Some of the best performances, actors you'll see off Broadway come to the Tank. You know, we just did a show with David Greenspan last spring, Midnight Coleslaw. You'll see because actors know that they want to be working with the next up and coming writer. They want to be seeing something exciting. So check out the Tank's website. We have stuff going on every day.
That's literally, people have said, and I'm nobody. I'm a school teacher from New Jersey, but people will say to me,
oh my gosh, yes to our school teachers.
Thank you, Meghan.
Come on. My parents are both public educators, so we are nothing without our school teachers. So.
Well, I appreciate that so much. And I teach musical theater at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark, New Jersey. And a lot of my students say, how do you get started? How do you make these connections that I may have made in my 40 years of life? And I say, find the next up and coming person. Reach out go to the Tank, see someone who wrote something that you love, and then tell them, I loved this. I'm an actor. I'll take you to coffee. I want to know what makes you tick, and build your own network, because there are amazing artists out here all around the city.
Absolutely. You know, I say that to Tank Turns, which is our affectionate name. We have a paid internship at the Tank that people can check out at our website if they're interested. But also, you know, the Tank is your first stop. If you're an emerging artist, it's a place you can afford to do new work. It's a place where you can hang out and just get to see what's going on and meet those artists. But I always say, look to the side. Don't always think forward and above. You know, I was an intern a million years ago for a project called 13P. That was 13 playwrights, and the producer runs her own theater now. Playwrights, or many of them are of some renown, and the other interns with me, Caleb Hammonds just took over Soho Rep, and you know, Polly Hubbard was over at in Chicago at Steppenwolf for a long time. So I say, you know, if you hang out with the right people, all the interns get their own theater one day. So you know, really look to the side, look next to you, who's in the ranks with you, and start making work with them, because there's room for you.
Absolutely. I think it's the best advice. So we're talking here about theater. We're talking about this, how you have evolved the Tank, how it's become two places, how capital and revenue wise you're maybe modest, but you've tripled it. You've done some work there in creating a viable way to make art artistic and affordable for patrons and for artists. But with the David's, you won because you're the first theater person to win, because you talked
actually the first, not to like, I'm the first cultural sector worker to win. So that's also very exciting.
What did you have to do? Like, what did you talk about to win?
So the way it works is you're vetted for the better part of a year. It is a long process, and all the way along the way, I thought, well, this isn't going to happen. But I kind of came out of it thinking, well, this was a great way to flesh out this project idea that I had. You know, the Tank closed like everyone else during the pandemic, but we did not stop. There were no sourdough starters in my life during the pandemic. I spent every waking moment of the pandemic saving the Tank and working with the artists to ensure we had this space. And what I noticed coming out of it, you know, we make a lot of our money from earned revenue. Once we recovered audiences, I started seeing that we were able to, we've been doing better in terms of our box office revenue than we were in FY19. So I said to myself, looking at other theaters that are having trouble and that rely on contributed revenue, well, where's that hole? And I think part of it is that emerging artists, experimental artists, when they do have two shows at the Tank, they sell them out. And they bring out a whole audience that maybe would never go to one of these bigger theaters, but they're following the artists. And so then we continue to market to those people, and we find them coming back. So I said to myself, okay, well, how could we do this? So the whole idea is this project, I call it Revenue NYC, because we have been losing. We lost 27, according to Indie Space, an art service organization, we lost 27 rehearsal and performance spaces during the pandemic. So what can we do to start bringing back these spaces? And the idea is to start with pop-ups that basically replicate the Tank's model. Because I think one thing that happens to the bigger theaters when they see how much work we do, they just get tired. They're like, how can you possibly do that? And we've been doing it for 20 years because we have systems in place and we're able to maximize the use of our space and serve a high volume of artists. So essentially the project is taking our model, making it in this very adorable, sexy package that can basically slot in like a rental, replace lost rental revenue for the theaters that they're losing, and also get a high volume of artists through who bring new audiences that then they can begin to market their season. The idea is to raise money for theaters, make some money for artists, and get new audiences in new spaces.
You know, there's many things have been written about, from the New York Times to Playbill to about theater audiences being old. That, you know, like some of these classic places that have been around for a long time that skew older, their audiences are literally going away and not replacing.
And so what I say to that, you know, because, you know, we're wringing our hands about this as a sector, and yet we need to take a deep breath and remember that we're on a 13-mile-long island where 8 million people live. So we could be in a harder situation, which many other theaters outside of New York are. So what we really need to do is ask ourselves, how are we going to invite these new audiences in? And when I see the Tank 7 nights a week, I can go down into the Tank and it's full of vibrant audiences, new artists, that wild, wonderful New York energy that defines the theater. It's why I got into the theater. You know, it's why I watched Funny Girl. You know, I watched the movie Funny Girl for, 12 times. And I thought, well, I want to be backstage like she is after the show with all that wild, show girls running around. That's how it feels at the Tank. So I know that the audiences are out there. We just need to find ways to get them into your space. And that's inviting new people. But, the aesthetic issues that go along with that, this is also, Revenue holds aesthetic risk. We can slot in like a rental at a bigger space, and they get the cachet of saying, hey, we helped these emerging artists get a start. We invited new audiences in. They know how to navigate the subway. They know where the bathroom is. They know where the bar is. They've had time at my theater, and then I can market my own shows to them. So that's the idea.
Well, it's brilliant. I'm excited for you. I think it's such a great idea. I think that it's so important to support art no matter where you're listening to this, even if you're in somewhere far from New York City. There's a local theater company or some performing arts center or community theater that needs you to buy a ticket. It's so important no matter where we live. Fine, Meghan. I will come to your Pride Fest. I'll sing for you. I'll do whatever you want, Meghan. I love your programming, and we've had a lot of your shows and the creators and directors and stars on our show. And I think, it's such an honor to be able to use my little platform to be able to hopefully get somebody out there to buy a ticket and know about something that maybe they wouldn't hear about it. Do you find it hard to make noise in this craziness that is New York City?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons that I'm so excited about the prize, because I feel like it's an opportunity to really get the word out about what's happening in theater and culture in New York City. And I think as a result, it's going to be really helpful in having conversations. That said, whoever is listening that's like, hey, I want to get involved in this, whether they're an artist or they know of a space and they want to get involved, please reach out. We have a website too for the project, revenuenyc.com. You can follow us at revenuenyc. We actually have soft piloting. Sorry.
No worries.
We're actually soft piloting. You're going to edit this, right?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Of course we do. Yes, we do.
We're actually soft piloting Revenue NYC right now at a space called Paradise Factory on East 4th Street. We started it on Monday night, and we have 30 shows that are happening over the course of the next 3 weeks to replace some lost rental revenue for that venue and get a whole new slew of artists and audiences to know about it. So we're testing it out and seeing how it goes. But I have a lot of faith that the project's going to be a huge success because we've done it for the last 20 years at the Tank. So
I'm so excited for this opportunity. I find as an artist and somebody who does cabaret and puts on shows and has a band and does things like this, that it's one of the biggest fears is people say, there is no audience, no one's going to come, and I don't know where to be. And some places are very hard to book, and some places are very overwhelming and intimidating. or you make no money and you lose a bunch of money because you have to spend all this money. So what you're doing is going to help the next generation.
That's my plan. I want because people come up to me once a week and say, the tank is one of the last places I can perform my work. And that's just unacceptable to me, because this is New York City and we should have a vibrant downtown, emerging artist, experimental community. And we have the space, and we can absolutely do it. It's at our fingertips. We just need to get started.
So if you want to know more about the tank, it's thetanknyc.org. And then we'll put the link below us for your new project, which you could tell us one more time.
Sure. It's Revenue NYC. So it looks like Revenue NYC.com.
So exciting, amazing, award-winning idea that's going to be implemented. Now you have literally won awards. You're artistic director, and I'm sure it keeps you very busy. There's shows at the tank literally every day, pretty much. And then in your spare time, you work on being an advocate and work for charities for immigrant families. Like, just in your, like, when you leave work, you just say, you know what makes me relax? Working for immigrant families in 2024 in the United States.
Yes. Well, I feel called to do that just as a person. And it's not something, it's something that I wanted to mention in winning the prize, because I wanted it to be an opportunity for the organization I co-founded, Each Step Home, to, amplify me as an effort to just let people know more about the organization itself. But we work to essentially fill a gap between families whose children have been separated from them at the border and the system. So we expedite the release of children from federal custody detention, and help them get back to their families sooner. So a lot of people don't know that children can still be separated at the border from aunts, uncles, grandma and grandpa. And even though, certainly one side of the aisle is leaps and bounds better than the other side of the aisle, neither is really talking about the issue of immigration and how any kind of immigration to the United States increases the GDP. It's helpful for the United States. I mean, I think I just feel a moral responsibility to be involved, because I think our policies are inhumane. And so I just do it out of a feeling of, I would want someone to do it for me,
Well, I would like to say thank you. My grandfather was here from Italy. He came here without any documentation. He had to hide for many years here in this country until he married my grandmother back at that time, and leaving the country and coming in. And I'm a teacher in North Bergen, New Jersey. I have so many undocumented residents that live in my classroom, and their parents, and I see the fear, the fact that they're afraid of medical care. They're afraid to fill out paperwork for their children. They're afraid to use the police department, or to go to stores or the library, because they feel. And if you've ever spoken to someone whose family has been rounded up and detained while their children are in school and their wives or girlfriends are home, and you put a face and human name to the rhetoric that you hear every day it is a totally different understanding and feeling when you know them, have a relationship with them, and when they're a part of our society, than when it's just a statistic on cable news.
Absolutely. And, I think that a lot of people don't know, and this is something for them to look up themselves, that a vast majority of undocumented immigrants pay federal income tax. A lot of tax revenue annually comes from immigrants. And so economically, no one's really talking about that. Ironically, I think there's some, reporting around it from the Bush Foundation. But I mean, nobody is really, in my mind, talking about this issue in a more humane way. But I do think, we need to do, that's next on our agenda. We have some items, some initial November items to take care of, and then we can start putting more pressure on some of these issues that we care about. But yes,
I'm sure you do, because I literally, when I read your press release in your bio and researched your organization, which you can find more information about, eachstephome.org, I was like, of all the topics of the time, I mean, your head must spin around 360 on a daily basis with the things you hear.
It does. I think we need to do frankly, the left and center left needs to do a better job at talking about this issue. I think I think United States talks about the immigration system like it's global warming, and it's not. It is solvable, but we need to start talking about it more, and letting the people who are experiencing it speak about it in safety instead of with fear of deportation. And I just kind of, in my mind, I don't talk about it a whole lot because it's not my story to tell. I try to decenter myself in this narrative. But I'm trying to do my part in the time that I have, and the organization that I work with is fantastic. The people the caseworkers, we've helped reunite over 1,000 children with their families since 2019. So I'm very proud of it.
Wow. Give Meghan Finn some more money, somebody. Come on. It's amazing.
Well, Each Step Home is a great organization to donate to, as is the Tank. I'm excited for the future of Revenue and what that means for the Tank and for the many artists in New York City. So I'm grateful to be on here to talk about it.
Well, as an artist here in the New York City area, I want to say thank you. I want to thank you for the work you put on at the Tank. I want to thank you for coming up with the idea to get artists a chance to work and make venues make some money. And then all that you do out here as an advocate for people and human beings in this world in general is very inspiring and moving. So thank you for all the time and effort you've put for all of the things. It makes a huge difference for all of us.
It's my pleasure. It's been nice. It's been nice. You get a little worried when you win some money. It's not something I'm comfortable with, but I have been feeling like a lot of the artists that I work with, they were like, I feel like I won. And I'm like, good, you did. And that means more to me even than any money. So I'm grateful.
Well, I'll see you over at the Tank.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, and thanks to all the listeners out there.
I appreciate you. Thanks so much for being here.